It's really gone.
Yep. So, all right, who is next?
Is that me? I think that's me.
I think it's you, Tets.
I think it's you.
Well, interestingly, because both of you guys talked about BattleTech, and your stuff, and I almost decided to talk about BattleTech because that's one of the three major geeky things I've been doing between taking care of my new daughter and everything. But I've also been playing Borderlands, which has been a lot of fun, getting prepped for that Borderlands 3 before that drops.
Oh, yeah.
It's almost here, isn't it?
Oh, man.
Next month.
September 13th? No.
I don't know.
Sometime
I just know September.
Yeah, which I'm freaking excited about, but I haven't finished Borderlands 2, and I don't know if I'm going to have time to finish the pre-sequel. But anyway, the other big thing I've been doing, I think we've talked about before on here that I have that blog that's now going. And back at the beginning of June, end of May, I think, I had officially released a playtest document for a Fate supplement that I've been working on. I thought I would talk about that.
You're officially a game designer now.
Yeah, I have been spending a lot of time working on that and fine-tuning things and figuring out that I am horrible at writing bad guys because I make them way too powerful.
Better they be too powerful than too weak.
When you one-shot TPK the whole party in the module that's included in the rulebook,
that sounds like a fun time to me. I don't know what you're talking about.
No, but so it's called Mahou Shoujo, Wake Up, Go to School, and Save the World. And if it is not indicative, it is a magical girl supplement for Fate. I realized... So, specifically, one of the couples that play a lot with my wife and I, his wife and my wife are huge into magical girls. Like, they eat that stuff up. They will watch all of the anime and read all of the manga. And so I thought it'd be fun to play a game of that, and you guys know me by now. Fate is my go-to, like, especially if I want to break out of the mold. And just over time, we've been kind of working on things, and I decided to just sit down and try to write
You cranked it out pretty quickly, didn't you? Relatively speaking.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was pretty fast, dude.
I was actually working on it for a good bit before I mentioned it to anybody because I didn't know how much it was a thought exercise and how much of it was something that was actually going to happen. And even now, like, it didn't take me too long to get all the rules that I wanted kind of in place, and it's just been tweaking things from playtesting and a lot of formatting. I tell you what, when you have no budget whatsoever to pay people to help you with formatting and art, it ends up taking a lot of your time. I can talk about that part of game design for a whole topic at another point. I just figured today we'd talk about the so yeah, I know we've played a few Fate games before on this, and I think I've talked about a few different other Fate games. What makes this one different than some of the other Fate games is the inclusion of magical skills that I've added and an additional purity track. I think those are the two major differences. Fate doesn't handle magic well, I don't think. It is the one thing I've had the hardest time with. It is really, really hard to... Using a game that is narratively focused, that allows everybody to kind of have flat bonuses, it's really hard to make people's spells feel unique and special.
Yeah, I think magic is one of the hardest things to do in a lot of games.
Yeah, I would agree.
It's obvious, and I think pretty much any system that has it, like...
Any system that has magic will always... You can be certain that whoever has magic will be stronger than the people who don't.
Right, or you end up with 4th edition.
Yeah.
Well, right,
D&D.
and which I actually really like 4th edition for that reason, because I tend to not play magical characters, which is
right. But I mean, there's no difference between magic and not magic, like
Agreed.
As far as the feel of things.
Right.
Swinging a sword and firing a magic ball, like literally, is just...
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Roll to hit,
doesn't say
deal
arcane
this much
or
damage.
doesn't say martial.
Yeah.
Which I think is kind of how I prefer to to run things, but I understand why that feels wonky. Because again, like right, magic is physics breaking. So how do you take something that innately is OP and make it in such a way where
Yeah.
even without just making it flat? Like it's almost a bit of a semantics argument that you have to work out before you can even get to a mechanical argument. That being said, I've done the best I could. It's kind of the best way to word it. I know Mao has taken a look at the rules. Meta has. I don't know if you have fully opt. I know I've sent it.
I haven't gotten to yet.
But kind of the way it handled it was just with the addition of 3 new skills, which feels a little simplistic, but I think it keeps things streamlined so that way if you want to make it more complex at your table, you can.
Yeah. Otherwise you would probably have to like make a system that works outside of what Fate is already established.
I mean,
Right.
Fate,
Which would feel a bit wonky at that point, probably.
Fate is a super simple system. I mean, it's designed to eschew any sense of like miniatures. It's designed to specifically focus on very simplistic numbers.
It's all about cinematics.
Yeah, the most intensive part is coming up with stunts. That truly is the most intensive part about that game, and that's not exactly a very hard thing to do.
Right. Well, and actually, that's a good random tangent. That just to make a comment on that. Usually, when I play Fate games, people have like their stunts all written up. This was a lot of my playtesting was the first time I've ever had people leave their stunts open to discover during gameplay. And this is probably, I feel like this game has really played well into that because it's like, oh, I want to do this magical thing because magic. And rather than just saying, okay, so rewinding a minute or so when I said the 3 new skills I added was just magical shoot, magical fight, and magical utility. If your magic is a shooting attack, it's magic shoot. If it's a fighting, magic fight, and if it's none of those, magical utility. Super simple, but that can kind of lead to just blandness, right? Like why is casting unlocked door just as powerful as healing somebody back from near death, right? So by allowing your stunts to be open, it allows you to really get that specialty that you want of your magic. You know, to allow you to tailor those spells really uniquely to you. One of my playtesters, she played a fire magical girl who didn't have magical fight. She just was really good with her kendo sword. She went to kendo in high school, and she was just that good. She could kill spiritual monsters with a normal sword.
Huh?
But she took a spell that let her augment her sword, so if she slammed it on the ground, she essentially would just summon waves of flame to ignite all of her enemies in front of her. And so I thought that was really interesting because she had a really low magical fight and a really high normal fight, but because of that stunt, she was able to essentially spend a fate point and hit multiple opponents.
Yeah.
And so she was really able to tailor that to her. Like normally, right, like you could just say, okay, yeah, that's just a magical shoot roll because you slam it on the ground and it shoots fire for it. But I don't know, like I've been having a lot of fun with all of my different testers, seeing how they create their spells by leaving their stunts open. And in fact, I'm actually probably going to add a clause specifically mentioning that in the book. Because I know some Fate games say, make sure you have all your stunts, and some are like, you could explore them. This, I feel like, really is better to explore as you play.
I mean, it would fall into a magical girl trope where they kind of learn about new
Right.
powers as the game goes on or the story continues. They don't start off with them, so.
Exactly.
Are you saying people don't get brutally murdered in every magical girl game?
Well, I
Or
mean,
anime?
some.
No.
Some of them are light and fluffy.
And actually,
Let's go with most that aren't, like a commentary on the genre.
Magic.
and that's actually something I mentioned.
Princess Tutu's pretty dark too, for a magical girl show about dancing.
Yuki Yuna is a hero that's almost as dark, if not darker, than Madoka Magica. Oh, that one's rough.
But
no, I actually talk about that in the book as well. Towards the end, I'm writing a section on how to incorporate different Mahou Shoujo genre tropes and conventions in your game, because like I feel like that's something that's lacking in certain splat books. Sometimes you're like yeah, I love kaiju movies, but I don't fully know how to work in some of the tropes that make kaiju movies.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Mecha versus Kaiju doesn't do that. I've just picked one out of the ether from my head, but so that's something I was working.
Or what if you wanted to ditch the kaiju altogether and make it more of a mecha focus thing, you know?
Yeah.
Right. But one of, as Meta said, stunts to me are the really interesting and fun thing about Fate. Like, it is so much fun to just come out and churn out stunts. And that has been one of the most enjoyable things about this. I think I have like 3 pages dedicated to example stunts you could take for your magical girls.
Yeah, I mean, that's generally what sets you apart in Fate from other characters.
It is. Yeah. It's that and aspects are, basically the only things you get to customize about yourself.
Right.
Like, outside of just numbers.
I'm glad you brought up aspects, because that's the other one of the other big things is how do you cast magic, right? So I talked about that purity stress track. I kind of have like a transformation sequence is ubiquitous in every single magical girl thing, right? And whether or not it's a coming into your own coming of age story, is it a flipping a switch to the mask, taking off the mask of your true self, however you want to see it, like that. Like, there's a reason why transformation sequences exist in the genre. So I thought we probably should definitely have that. So once you transform, you can actually like roll a die based off of your magical utility skill and get a boon for the fight. But you also gain the purity stress track. Now, in normal Fate, whenever all of your stress has been taken up and all of your consequences have been filled up, that's when you're taken out of the fight, right? So you can fill up your entire stress track and be okay as long as you have consequences. But in this, if your purity is filled up, you automatically revert back to your normal human self. So you're still in the fight, but you can't use your magic until you've healed some of your purity back. And I just kind of picked purity. That's one of those things that might change, because my playtesters in my Discord have voiced concern at using the phrase purity, because that can also conjure up other imagery, which I understand. But so part of whenever you are, in order to cast your magic, you have to be in your magical girl, right? Like, you don't usually see them like at school suddenly using their magic to cheat, or whatever, right? In order to do so, however, you have to have taken an aspect that would conceivably grant you magic, essentially, is kind of how I worded it. So it could be something like the Lost Flame Princess. So that means, suddenly you can cast magical fire, or friend to all animals. So you are a beast tamer style magical girl. Yeah. So it's essentially, as long as you have an aspect that could arguably cast magic, then as long as you are in your magical form, you can cast the magic. I don't know that I'm wording that as well, because I have a lot more room when I'm typing it than saying it aloud. But
so here's my question, because
yes.
I find this to be the most interesting part, since you are designing a supplement for a system that already exists. I assume you probably want to publish this someday. Have you looked into that, and how do you go about doing it with Fate?
So Fate actually has an open licensing, two different licensing models. You can either go OGL, which has more rules on it. It doesn't grant them any more. So first off, in both forms, you own all of the rights. Fate owns all of the rights to everything that says Fate, and they are essentially allowing you to use that. They have no claim whatsoever on the stuff you add. OGL has more restrictions, whereas the other one, Creative Commons, is more open-ended. But Creative Commons allows people to then do more stuff off of your work. So somebody could go, oh, hey, I want to create an expansion to Mahou Shoujo. With Creative Commons, they could do so. OGL, they couldn't. It is part of my understanding on how the two differ. But as long as I give proper credit in the what do they call that? The copyright page. It's fine. That's
okay.
all.
You don't have to pay them royalties or anything like that.
Nope.
Oh, that's cool.
The only royalty, quote unquote, they ask is that you toss them a free PDF, and even that's not just ask them.
Yeah,
so,
that's cool.
And I sent them like as soon as I started working on it, they were like one of the first people I sent access to my playtest doc, which by the way is currently open to people jumping in on. It's just a Google Doc at the moment. It's very bare bones, and I'll throw the link to Obs so that way he can put it in the description below.
Yeah, I'll make sure it's in the description.
I have not. I forgot to look. Do you have suggestions turned on that?
It is, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, a couple people have made a few suggestions, which I've taken and worked with a little bit as well.
Cool.
Isn't it great that we live in an age where you can post that and people can just leave comments on their thoughts and suggestions, and you can just literally go to the document you're working on and pull them up. It's kind of insane that we couldn't do this 10 years ago.
Yeah.
All thanks to cloud service. Now, excuse me, I have to find that link and trash everything that you
sucked into the cloud.
It is not open to edit. It is open to.
That's all right. My comments will be scathing.
Well, good, because I deserve it.
I'm not sure how to take that one actually now.
When you do publish it, what are you going to do for art and stuff? Have you thought about that yet?
I have actually. My wife does. She's a budding artist. She hasn't done a whole bunch of stuff yet, and she has wanted to take a crack at it. And so I will at least be including a good bit of her artwork and things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's going to be the only bit.
Crowdsource it.
Yeah, it's literally I just don't know at this current. But probably that'll probably be a good bit of it.
Yeah, art's usually one of the last things.
Yeah, it's one of the last assets.
And art can get expensive, and I am not
very expensive.
Yeah, and I'm not one of those hey, can you do art and you'll get exposure? No,
right.
You're going to be
Yeah, that's always going to lead to a bad thing.
Right.
I mean, what do you say? Because art is a very expensive thing to do, and if you really want to pay somebody a reasonable amount, it will generally cost a lot into the hundreds. Yeah.
Yeah, and when you're on a shoestring budget like myself, it's a little hard. And that's partially why I've been I think I had all of the core rules really hammered in by middle of April or so, and that's why I still haven't had that's one of the biggest formatting things that I still have to work out.
I mean, you can always find not open source. What's the word? I went to school for this crap. You think I'd know these terms off the top of my head? Stuff that you can use for free, basically. I'm sure there's some if you had to fill something, there's some pictures you could find. Yes, thank you, open domain.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, I don't know, I'm playing around with a couple different options. So I still have to work on the book formatting itself. It's amazing how I'm now in awe at people who really do this stuff, because it doesn't make you a lot of money, and it is a ton of work. Oh yeah, but it's also really fun. It really is enjoyable to just sit down for a little while and just work on it. But yeah. The other big thing that I'm really proud of, I guess is the right word. It's not quite the right word, but happy with, I guess, is the inclusion of rules for making opposition. Because I feel like that's another thing that Fate Core kind of fell a little flat on, and they had to produce the adversary toolbook to really kind of flesh it out. And I took some stuff from that, which again the Creative Commons license allows, but I added in some of the tropes of the magical girl genre, right? Like you have the mooks that you fight, and then you find out they have their little boss, and their little boss is merely a little guy underneath this bigger boss who is one of 4 lieutenants under the big bad, right? So I kind of played around with some of that stuff as well, and I think it came out pretty well.
That's cool, man.
But yeah, it's been really interesting. It's been a lot of fun. As I said, I've a few people have played it on their own and got back to me, but most of the playtesting has been myself and this one core group, who I trashed way early on and had to rework stuff on. The other funny thing, a little bit of a tangential story. In all my years of GMing, I've had plenty of times where the players do something and I go, okay, I wasn't expecting that. How do I react? This was the first time I had to get up and walk out of the room and pause the game so that way I could figure out how to respond to that which my players were doing. There was one of the aspects of the module that's going to be included in the final product. There was a labyrinth of bamboo that they had to get through, and they tried to, by using the water user, use essentially a high pressure water gun to cut underneath the bamboo to get out of the magical forest. And it was like, I mean, I guess you could do that, and the module's just over? Or how do I work this? So I just had to be like, okay, guys, we take a 10-minute break, everybody go get snacks, make drinks, and let me think about how to fix your problem.
You're too clever for your own good.
You're too clever.
I feel like they expect that to go faster than it would in real life.
Yeah, well, and the other thing that eventually I had to do, which I hated because it was railroading, but like, you know, modules in core books tend to be, I guess, a bit railroady. I was trying to avoid it, but at some point, right, it's a magical forest. No matter how deep you cut, there's still bamboo. You know, no matter how high you try to jump over them, the bamboo just keeps growing, right? Like,
yeah,
I don't know. It was really interesting to me to look at that and go, wow, I can't believe I didn't think players would do this, and I don't have an answer for that.
Someone's always got a jump spell.
Always.
Well, there was a magic user, a fire user, a water user, a plant user, and a heart user. Because that guy wanted to play, like, you know, in Captain Planet, right? Like,
yeah,
heart. Yeah. He was him, right? So yeah, I had magic, and I had fire for bamboo, and I had the water user to try to dig a hole underneath.
But I want to play Tuxedo Mask.
You can! I'm glad you actually said that. I specifically tried to write it in such a way to be keen in the modern day market, to make it not specifically only be magical girls. If you want it to be magical boys, if you want to do, you know, non-binary gender, all of that's fine. I word everything with she because it's the genre. It's the genre. But I specifically do make mention that, you know, if you want to do it that way, here's how to do it. Don't worry about it. If you want to play Tuxedo Mask, you can do that too. Here's how to do that. Tuxedo Mask would be somebody who has a 0 in magical fight, but maybe like a 3 in normal fight, right? Like, he has no magical abilities whatsoever. He has a very basic purity track, but he has good physical stats.
He shows up and is the best character.
Yeah. I am here.
That's debatable.
I've done all I can.
I'm kind of memeing. Only kind of.
Only kind of.
I haven't seen all of Sailor Moon, so I can't say definitively.
It's been a while since I've seen it.
Yeah, it's been since it was on Toonami.
The majority of my magical girl like knowledge that I can immediately pull up in my head is Madoka Magica at the current moment. So
Fair enough. Fair enough, good sir.
Yeah, no, he can fight with roses.
It's true,
and
yeah.
even I believe in Crystal, he can like shoot energy beams. I believe, and
well,
stuff.
later on, like when he taps into his history as Endymion, he like gains more magical abilities.
Yeah, he does more in like than the meme would suggest.
But you're completely useless.
The meme is definitely season 1 and 2 of English Tuxedo Mask.
I've come and saved the day, but you didn't do anything. My job is done. Whatever the meme was.
That specific meme is actually from episode 2 or 3.
Yep, pretty much. It's very early.
It is straight from the beginning.
Yeah, the very early Sailor Moon stuff is very Monster of the Week.
Yeah.
And focuses around Sailor Moon trying to fight something, fails. Tuxedo Mask is like, "You can do it." She's like, "Yes, I can."
If I remember correctly, that episode is where like these monsters were corrupting people to steal jewelry because they were trying to find the special jewel of the month, and she was broke into a jewelry store to try to fight the jewelry store owner. Like
something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I believe that's that episode.
They were selling it for very cheap to harness an energy, like the energy of greed or something.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Funny enough, I've seen a lot of Sailor Moon imagery as of late, and it's only because at work I've been listening to City Pop compilations, and it shows up on them all the time. Like little 5-second clips that play over and over again. There's been a lot of Sailor Moon ones on there randomly. So anyways, that's a story for another day.